on, folks. I'm going to start with the Chairman's report. Obviously, we'd all like to take this opportunity to wish Daniel and Sarah the very best, and everything goes well this evening or whenever it arrives. I'll just, it's okay, everybody, I'll just read out the reports that he sent to me, okay? Okay, so good evening all, and welcome to tonight's Town Council meeting. As usual, we're not expecting a fire. If the fire alarm goes off, please leave the building by the way you came in. September saw the Wenlock Olympian Games of 2021, which was very well attended despite the circumstances, and a great success. It was special for me to give out medals to competitors after receiving medals from the Mayor when I competed. Gold in under 15 boys 100 metres, if anybody was wondering. On items regarding the Gaskell field, it's great to have the hedges cut. My dad cut them using his tractor and hedge cutter with myself, Councillor Thiemens and Councillor White on hand. I have to say, I can do a great deal to keep an eye on the members of the public, ensuring they're out of harm's way. The October exhibition in the Guildhall is from the Victory Painting Group, who sell mixed artworks by local artists for sale at affordable prices. Last month also saw a Wenlock business win an award from Surfers Against Sewage due to the near non-existence of single-use plastics in her shop. Again, I'd like to congratulate Sam Beach on the award and thank her for adding such an essential shop to our high street. Last weekend marked the end of an era for much Wenlock, with Catherine's Bakery closed down on very short notice. I believe I speak for all in the council chamber, but that town is poor without a bakery in it, and I hope that in the future one will return, which allows opportunity for a new entrepreneur or business. Our thoughts are with the staff, and we hope they can find work soon. On a happier note, last month saw the retirement of a Wenlock great in John Cumberland, who retired from his ministry. John began his time in Wenlock as a spiritual seeker and contented, quiet, reflective member of the congregation before God, called in first as a lay reader and then an associate priest, which Wenlock is, and its outlying villages have valued his ministry greatly, and on behalf of this town council, we'd like to thank him and wish him well for the future. Finally, as this town council enjoys promoting local books, Sacrum Obum Bratio.
Nearly.
Bratio?
Obum Bratio.
Oh, blimey, okay, well, there we go. A Pilgrim's Spiritual Companion to the Sacred Shadows of Wenlock Priory by Reverend Matthew Stafford himself is on sale from Wednesday the 13th of October. You can purchase a copy from Croft Design or Linden Tree. Okay, on to item 2. Any apologies, please?
Sir Thomas, the Mayor, who, as we know, is at the hospital awaiting the birth of his first baby.
Absolutely.
Sam Naylor sent a late belated apology.
Okay.
On what's that?
Okay, great, thank you.
He's retained in London.
That's not that everybody else is accountable for anyway, so I think we can move on then. Disclosure of pecuniary interests, a declaration of any disclosable pecuniary interest in a matter to be discussed at the meeting. Anybody got anything too deep? Take that as a no. Great, thank you very much. Dispensations, any requests for dispensation should be in writing and address the town clerk.
None received.
None received, thank you. Item 5. Drop down menu. Where is it? There it is. Another report from Councillor Thomas in his absence. Shropshire Council report. Much Wenlock Town Council October. At our last meeting, I expressed the pleasure of a great result at August's Southern Planning Committee meeting, and my dismay that the application was back on the agenda. I am somewhat at a loss for words to describe the meeting in September. The debate was fraught with inaccuracies and on the Gaskell corner. One councillor left the meeting and came back but still voted. And the crucial transport document around the Gaskell corner was only uploaded to the portal after the meeting. Credit to Councillor White for making this point during the meeting. I focused my speech again on the Gaskell corner and the inaccurate transport modelling, concentrated on some ire on the shambles of the affordable housing provision, which Wenlock was just 3 miles away. Many in housing need could have taken up these homes. Overall, it's much better than we had initially thought, with an extra £100,000 for our transport study and an additional 5% on the affordable homes. I'm sure it was 5%. We have reasons to be positive, but there is much to consider when we reach this item on the agenda. Should be all agreed. Closer to home, the town has an extensive cleaning of its drains over the last 2 weeks, which are vital in the flood mitigation. At the National Flood Forum were in town yesterday, and they held a meeting with residents. The highway repairs, the potholes, are set to continue. Anything that is marked with a white on the road log will get done eventually. If it's not, then please use Fix My Street, which is slowly replacing the now defunct My Shropshire. As it affects much landlock and potentially items on the agenda, it's important to note the changes in Shropshire Council's cabinet due to the sad resignation of Steve Charnley. He'll be replaced as deputy leader by Lowton councillor Ed Potter, who will remain portfolio holder for economic growth, regeneration and planning. Battlefield councillor Dean Carroll will now take charge of councillor Charnley's portfolio, which also includes physical infrastructure and housing. The draft of the local plan was submitted on September the 3rd, and the Secretary of State has appointed planning inspectors Louise Crosby and Carol Dillon to carry out an independent examination to assess whether the local draft plan meets the test of soundness defined in the National Planning Policy Framework. Last thing to note is that there will be a road closure on the 24th of October for bulk testing affecting the High Street, Wilmore Street and Barrow Street. And the road will be closed in Brockton on the 26th of October due to works on the bridge. Okay, there's item 6.
Yeah.
Sorry, any questions?
I was going to just under since the Shropshire Council report. Dan was at the PEC meeting on Tuesday.
Yes.
Just an observation. We consider the whole raft of planning applications. The point I want to make is on 3 or 4 of them, we just did not have enough information to make a sensible decision. Now, we've asked Dan to pick that up. We noted it on Tuesday night. The issue to me there is that it looks like planning applications are not getting registered, but not getting registered with the right stuff on there. And they should be not registered until that information is
Completely agree. Yes.
in one sense, we can simply say we haven't got enough information. We object. We refuse it from our perspective. The problem is that puts us in a very strange light because it looks like we're being nimbers. It looks like we're just saying no to everything, when actually we're trying to make a positive contribution to this. So I think if we could just make a note of that and pass that on formally to Dan, so we can play that back into the planning department.
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good point. I totally agree with you. And it seems to be almost commonplace that more than 50% of the planning applications have scant detail on, and certainly makes it very, very difficult to make a proper judgment on whether it's good or bad, or whether it should be passed on. So yeah, thank you. Okay. We'll go back to item 6 then, the police report. I know it was late in being submitted to ourselves. Have you all had a chance to scan your eyes over it? Any comments, or should we just note it and move on to the next item?
Excuse me, Chair, do you want to note item A?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Well, yeah, item A was item A first, and obviously to note that PC Jess Cynthia has moved to a different department, is now based at Shrewsbury. We did meet the police CSO today, himself and David. It's a Fenwick, and they are advertising her post, and will get back to us as soon as somebody's appointed. No sort of time frame on that.
Can we record our thanks to?
Yes, that was a point that was made, and I think, yes, we should, as a council, if everybody's agreed, pass on our compliments and thanks to Jess for her hard work while she was in post looking after our area. Thank you. Okay, so any comments on the police report? We'll move to item 6B then. It is what it is. I think it's very informative. It's perhaps anything completely new that sheds outbuildings get broken into in the summer for how it's all, but I think it's still very, very worthy of note that this is happening locally and to make people aware of that. I think one important thing I noticed was the Your Neighbourhood Matters, where you can receive the messages almost as they're happening as soon as they get an alert, which again is a good way of, and they've got quite a lot of people already signed up to that. If you're not signed up to it, I recommend that you possibly do, so that you're kept abreast of what is the current trend or what offences are happening or what problems are happening in our area. That would be great. Okay, so should we just agree to receive the report and note it? Everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Public session then, item 7. I don't think as far as this afternoon we had anybody down to ask to speak to the council. Okay.
The gentleman does have his hand up. He had
Yeah.
requested to speak previously.
I appreciate, I mean, just looking at the minutes, I appreciate I should have written in.
Sure.
So, I mean, obviously I can't speak unless you.
No. Should we have to suspend standards? We just have a vote on
It's
it.
at your discretion. I would say.
I'm personally okay with it. I met this gentleman at the Southern Planning meeting, so it may well be relevant. I think it would be worth listening. But can we kind of restrict it because we've got a really busy agenda? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody agreed on that? Can we just have a show of hands? Everybody's happy with that? Okay.
I'll keep it short.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Right, okay, so,
So can you introduce yourself? Sorry, you were.
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
I didn't want to. Yeah, okay. Right.
so my name's Jim Healy and I live in Cross Houses, Severn Valley Ward, and I am particularly interested in what's going on down the Iron Bridge development at the moment, because I appreciate what's happening to you guys, but it's also happening to us with the additional traffic that are going to be generated by this development. Just to quickly sort of reinforce Councillor White's point about the way that the meeting was held. I was there. I was sitting in the back as a member. I also made a speech, but I sat behind a councillor who, as you said, Councillor White, walked in and out of the meeting, got in late. He voted in the meeting, and he had a piece of paper on which, I wasn't sure what was written, but at the end of the meeting, he read it out. So he read out his decision on a piece of paper he'd written before the meeting. So clearly he wasn't, in my opinion, listening to any of the discussions that were going on. And equally, there were councillors there that voted against the motion in the previous session, and this time they voted for it. And I don't believe that there's been any material change. Indeed, the number of affordable homes to young people have actually gone down, because the bulk of the affordable homes, the extra 5% will now go to the older generation homes that have been put in place. If you read through the documentation, it's clear that even less younger people are going to get the opportunity to buy homes on this development. So I would have thought that the councillors would have rejected that, but they didn't. So that's where we are. So that's it really. The only other thing I was really going to raise was the what Much Wenlock may well want to do going forward on this. Obviously, the outline plan has been now signed off, so it's a little bit more difficult to vote what's going on. But I mean, yesterday Boris Johnson was talking about, and I've got a note on my phone from Daily Telegraph, and I haven't had much chance to read through it yet, but the implication is that he's very keen on trying to stop greenfield site developments in favour of brownfield site developments, and that's principally that's always been my particular angle on this. There's a third of the land is brownfield, and you probably build 350 houses. I think 350 houses is about the right number, and I'm a highway engineer. I work for the Welsh Government in the Transport Department. That probably wouldn't be an excessive number to allow you to get your traffic through Gaskill, and it might be a horse deal, but that might be the way to go on it. I don't know, but I'm going to do some more research on what Boris Johnson did and see how it translates into policy. His statement has still got to go into a policy initiative, but if that goes into a policy initiative before the detailed plan goes through, we may have an angle there to suggest that they should just be building on brownfield. I think that's the solution. Personally, I've got nothing against building on brownfield. Greenfield sites, we just should be building on agriculture. So, okay. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, David. Thank you. Okay. Right, okay, if that's okay, we'll move on to item 8, minutes. To approve and adopt the minutes of the Town Council meeting held on the 2nd of September. Anybody, any comments or issues to raise about the minutes? So can Council need to propose we adopt them? Councillor Dowd and seconded by Councillor Fenwick. Show of hands, please. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. To adopt the minutes Item B, adopt the minutes of the Planning and Environment Committee held on the 27th of July 2021. Any comments or any proposals?
Can I just have some clarification?
Sure.
I'm sure this is fine, but since the 27th of July, we've had a PEC meeting on the 31st of August.
Sure.
We've adopted the minutes from the Town Council of the 2nd of September, but as yet not adopted the minutes from the 31st of August for the PEC. Right. I just don't understand the protocol of it, that's all. I just want to know why we're a month or so behind.
I'll be going. Yeah.
It's because the committee approves the minutes, because they're committee minutes. So until the planning committee has approved its own minutes, they won't be adopted by the town
Thanks very
council.
much.
So at this stage, the town council is obviously adopting the approving the minutes of the previous town council meeting,
Yeah.
because you're the right body. But with the planning minutes, it's the committee that approves their own minutes. Once the committee's agreed that they're fine, then they come to the town council for adoption.
Thank you very much.
Right. No, thank you for that clarification. So, proposer to adopt the minutes of the 27th of July, please. Proposed by Councillor Fenwick, seconded by Councillor Toft. Show of hands. Thank you very much. Item C, to adopt the minutes of the Finance and Asset Management meeting on the 20th of July 2021. Again, any comments? Anybody need any clarification?
Okay, I'll send this.
I wasn't moved my watch, sorry. I don't know what that was. There wasn't
It was a
Sending
very good start
something.
behind you.
It probably thinks I wanted to send something, but no, sure. Okay, right. Can I have a proposer in a second? Can you type a new watch? I don't know how to work it. Okay, thank you. Okay,
You
right.
got it on the wrong arm.
Yeah, possibly. Okay, item 9. So, town clerk's report. Town clerk, please, thank you.
The town clerk's report is as read, I suppose, unless anybody has any
Sure.
comments or questions with regard to that. Some of the items, I think, got up on the agenda.
Anybody got any questions of the clerk? You heard the report?
Just well, 14C, we'll come to it later, I suspect. We're just at this stage. Have we had anything further from the Ministry of Housing or the Ministry of Living Up on the call-in?
Only what I forwarded to you previously, the latest communication from the case officer there to say that if the town council does want to make additional representations, you should do so as soon as possible, and that they are not concerned, the call-in would not be concerned with any procedural problems or perceived
So
problems
what
with
we've
the
got later.
procedure. That's not related to the calling. That would have to follow a different route.
Right.
So nothing in addition. No, they're waiting to hear from you. Really, they're waiting for any further contributions that you want to bring.
Okay. No further questions there? Okay, thank you, Town Clerk. External audit then. Okay, to item 10, to note that the external audit has been completed and the auditor, PKF Littlejohn LLP, has confirmed that the information contained in sections 1 and 2 of the annual government accountability return is in accordance with the proper practices and no other matters have come to their attention, giving cause for concern that relevant legislation and regulatory requirements have not been met. Anybody got any questions? No.
Could I propose that we thank the town clerk and her team for the excellent work that they've done? Sounds a bit like grovelling, I know, but you know, we should be grateful for knowing that we can rely on the administration of this council.
Thank you for that, because that was one thing on my little list, and I totally agree with you. It is very, very reassuring to know that the finance officer is just getting on with it, doing it, and it just seems to run very smoothly. And that is very reassuring, I must admit, especially when you want the signature.
Thank you. I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So if you pass on, thanks. That's very,
Yeah.
that's very good. Thank you very much. If there's no other comments, then we'll move on to item 11 then, the Welcome Back Fund. To note that agreement has been given in principle for funding for Christmas lighting and that quotations are being obtained by officers. I am led to believe that we are getting quotations, but it's probably the wrong time of year for asking for quotations for Christmas lights because everybody's doing exactly the same thing. It's certainly very busy. So is there anything else that we need to add to that apart from the fact that we'll watch this space?
Yeah, I think we were hoping to be able to get the lights, some new lights in the square where we had the globes, which are becoming a bit tired. But because it is so late in the season, really, not everything is available, and the companies are very busy, they won't come out and so on. So we have until early March to spend the money. So what we suggest really is that we wait until after Christmas, and then we should have a better selection, and the lighting companies will be able to give us more attention and find a better solution rather than just taking what's left on the shelf.
Yes,
Essentially.
Sorry. Carry on. Well, just something I was thinking about this. One of the most simplest and effective things I've seen many times before, which very much suit the high street, is just the lights that go down side to side, bright lights with other things on top of that, which would actually be very cost effective. And if a bulb goes and easily fixed as the first stage of that, and then something more intricate like the globes and things down in the square. I think that's something actually someone could sort of measure that and actually build it and have it fitting to onto the walls. But I can't remember, I came to Christmas Fair, we were going to have lost track of time. So I can't remember what was there, but I have seen that as a thing, which is, I think, very simple but very effective.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
So that's when speaking to somebody could be a part of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Setting.
Okay. Thanks. Esther Tyler, did you want to say anything?
I was just going to say that I think I agree with Trudy. I think that we'll also find that we may have a greater selection of what we would be able to have, and also at a more reasonable price.
More buoyant price, yeah.
At this moment in time, so I think that's
Great. Thank you very much. Anything else? No? Okay, thank you. Right, here we go then. Item 12. Ironbridge Power Station planning application. Reference 19/05660/OU2. Item A, to note the planning application for the Ironbridge Power Station was approved by Shropshire Council's Southern Planning Council. So, at this stage, we are noting that fact. So, okay, everybody happy with that? Just noting that fact, and then we move on to item B. Okay, thank you. Item B, to consider whether to take any further action regarding this application, including making additional representations to the Secretary of State, supporting a call-in for the application. Okay, open discussion then, folks. Anybody want to speak? Councillor Tyler.
This is a report that's been put together by the Transport Group in response to this, which Paul Hanafin has been engaged in. We all know that on the 20th of September, at the third attempt, this was approved by Shropshire Council. Despite all the objections that were put forward, and through the shenanigans that seems to have been going on up there, and we have therefore to decide on what we should do with regards to these objections and the way that this application has been passed. So there were three, despite these strong objections, the application was approved, and this leaves the Town Council with three options: to either accept the decision as it is, to lobby for the application to be called in by the Secretary of State for determination, or to consider a legal challenge over the withholding of crucial documents by the Shropshire Council officers. Now, it was touched on earlier on about why there is a legal issue with respect to the information that was given with regards to highways, the highways report, which came out 2 days after the decision had been taken. So at the moment, we are in a position where we are part of an effort for this to be called in. Yes. And that is still ongoing. So although the definitive statement hasn't been given by Shropshire Council, when it is, then it will be referred to the minister again, to his department, to be called in. There's also a possibility of a judicial review,
Sure. Yeah.
and whether we would be part of that judicial review, and that has yet to be looked at and considered by others, and to see whether we would take a part of it if it came to that. So that is to be debated at some point in the future. As you know, the money that Harworth had allocated to Much Wenlock was increased by a sum of £100,000. This took the figure to 350,000, of which 50,000 has already been set aside and will be going to Shropshire Council for a feasibility study. And that feasibility study is being looked at as we speak at this moment in time. Now,
If I can I just stop you there, because you're absolutely right. I want to make a finer point in saying that that 100,000 was taken out of the improving transport section that had already been donated. So this isn't Harworth
this
saying
isn't new money from
this
Harworth.
isn't new money. It's just been
No.
moved from one pot into another, which I
None
think is very relevant.
It's absolutely right. And none of the money that Harworth put up, including the 900,000 extra for the health, has come from Harworth's own back pocket.
No.
It's all been found from elsewhere and will eventually be paid for by the taxpayer. That 100,000, that 350,000, whilst it seems like a large sum, is insignificant to the actual cost of the overall scheme that could have to be put in place for the Basket Corner and for Much Wenlock as a whole. That figure was ascertained from a member of the Shropshire Council Highway Department to be anything in the region of £3 to £5 million. So there will be a tremendous shortfall to be made up. The news of this study will obviously be, it's another study. There will be some apathy that is shown in Much Wenlock, but it is up for us to make our points to the town. What is going to be the consequence of the Unbridge Power Station development. And we will then, and I think that's as far as I want to go at this stage. But we have got to decide on what we're going to do. And those are the three options as far as we see.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Other councillors then? Councillor Grace, you'd like to add anything to?
Well,
Councillor
just
Tyler?
a fourth option actually, which we could just go to the Ombudsman and make a administration complaint about the traffic information not being made available beforehand. Now, even if the Ombudsman says yes, they were in the wrong, the Shropshire Council will probably ignore the decision, but at least it puts it on record that there was no administration. That may help inform some kind of judicial review as well, so I think that's an option. I think there's clear grounds for calling, looking at the criteria that the Living Up department has set out. There's clearly issues across a wider area than single local authority, because it's related to Wrekin and Shrewsbury, Shropshire. Has significant effects beyond localities. There are national issues here, because you're in the edge of the World Heritage Site and you're in the AONB. And there's some big design issues around the quality and the impact on the strategic highway network. So I think there are lots of reasons why you could successfully argue for a call. I don't think we should vote it down. We should let it go. I think it's important. And even more so, given the examination of public in next year in the local plan, this is still a strategic site proposal in the local plan. It doesn't go away as a proposal. So we're going to have to have the opportunity to make an argument there as well. Now, planning application kind of preempts a lot of that discussion, unfortunately. But there's no reason why we can't pitch it at that point too. And that would be worthwhile.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillors got it? Yes, sir.
One or two observations on what's been said. We are aware, and we have been made aware some time ago, that one of the councillors from the Southern Planning Committee did leave the room. That was made obvious to us very soon after it happened. I believe the voting was 6-4 in favour of the application. Now, would that mean that his vote is not void, which would make 5-4, which then wouldn't make any difference at all to the result? Or would it mean, from a legal point of view, that the whole thing is null and void and they have to start again? That I don't know, but that's certainly worth considering. Building on green belt land, which the Prime Minister has referred to at the party conference.
Greenfield, opposed to Greenbelt.
On greenfield land. Not sure whether that's particularly viable as an argument. I think it's probably got to be backed up in legislation somewhere down the line, which will take heaven knows how long. In between times, we've got to cope with the legislation as it stands at the moment. So that would be a problem, I suspect. We can't rely on that being a big argument in our favour. That's to be considered. 350 houses on that site. Don't misunderstand me, I'm very much in favour of giving Harworth a good run for their money. I can't see them agreeing to something as modest as that, because they paid a certain amount of money for that site, which relates to the profit they're going to make from over 1,000 house sales. If it happened that 350 was all they got, they're going to be demanding money back from the CEGB, I would suspect. So just a few observations that maybe we should consider.
They have, of course, made a handsome profit, or will eventually have made a handsome profit from the extraction of all the gravel, which they were selling on to people. But I don't think they'll be out of pocket. But I did take it quite a year. Quite rightly. I think 350. I think that would be a bitter pill for them to swallow, certainly. Any other councillors want to add to this? It's an important debate. It's important that everybody gets the chance to give their opinion. Councillor Granger.
Yeah, just a quick. What does the timeline look like? How much pressure we under to you mentioned perhaps the race around? The call-in. Again, two questions, I guess. How much influence have we got on whether that happens realistically, and what kind of time frame we're looking at to make that decision? I guess.
Questions. I don't know the answer.
The response from the department says there's no formal time frame, if I remember correctly. So the sooner the better is the answer to that question. Will we get a shot at it? I think the more pressure you bring to bear, get the MPs on side, as many people as possible signing up to that, especially the parishes or councillors that have got an interest in it. Will they do it? We'll see.
There does seem to be mounting support, I would describe that as. It seems to be starting to snowball. So certainly I'm aware of it. We won't be standing alone in asking for a call then.
You do see callers on quite narrow lines, actually. In London, you see them on traffic issues, because the impact is quite enormous. And so it doesn't have to be, you don't have to justify the whole thing. You just have to be really sharp about what you're saying the issue is. And part of the argument here would also be about, hang on a minute, this planning application is preempting a strategic discussion about highways, which the examination public is going to do. So you can talk about that. And it is an option for the department to say, well, we'll run the call-in inquiry alongside the examination public. That would be a way of doing it. But again, you need to chat.
That's right.
Well, part to say that I'm generally quite proud of these things. I think many people have more knowledge than I do, and I think they can catch up on the issues a little bit. But just thinking about it, talking about the snowballing effect, is it sensible to get in contact with, I presume, a lot of other people sat in a room all around the area, be that in Ironbridge, Broseley, wherever it might be. So do we all want to do this and get that snowball effect by directly contacting the people having these central meetings, asking the same questions? I presume there's a list of people who can get hold of who are the chairman of 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 councils, all that could be affected. Cross houses, for example, places like that.
Yeah.
So, numbers count.
Yes. Yeah.
So if that's 20 parishes with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 houses in the parish each time, it's a lot of people.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I don't see us as doing this in isolation.
No, I don't. Councillor Tom, any comments to make?
No, I was just looking at more information about call-ins. Really. I just want an actual procedure who can actually do this. And, obviously, there's going to be more power. Several people allied together in doing it. Just a question of how long have we got and how much time we devote to getting people together.
The call-in that was made after the August
Yes.
deferment, I suppose, is still live. At this moment, it was made by Steve McNally from Shrewsbury.
Is there
Steve McCloy.
Malloy it is, sorry, yes. Yeah.
So did I understand from things that have been said so far that there is a calling group of parish councils? There's already a group of people being formed to push this through. Is that right or not?
I don't know. That's the first I've heard of that. But
There are other councils like Bill Watson Sutton that are objecting.
It makes more sense to have a coordinated approach than everybody just having a bit of stab at it type of thing, because it might say weighted numbers. Councillor O'Dowd, any thoughts?
My only real thought is that in 10 to 12 years' time, there'll be a bypass around much Wedlock, but there's going to be
Oh, I hope so. You're very
in the
optimistic.
interim.
Yes, sorry. I think you're very optimistic with 10 to 12 years. I admire your confidence.
Well, that will be the bait that will be hung out
Sure, yeah.
in trying to persuade us to accept whatever people plan to put forward.
Yeah, true. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Councillor Freemans?
Yeah, I don't actually see there's any point in complaining about procedures and the things that have been done in a shoddy fashion. It may affect somebody's opinion later on, but I don't believe there's any traction in that at all. You have to put that behind you and go on to the next battle. So, and in terms of that, I think it is probably unwise to start to think about legal challenges. The Shropshire Council are going to have a lot of cash. They're prepared to bet on this one and throw at it, and I think we would probably get ourselves into a difficult situation. So I would go for something that is as cash neutral as possible on it, and the calling sounds sensible.
Rather than the cash neutral, that doesn't cost you anything.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Anybody got anything further they want to add to this?
It's clear then, Chair, whilst calling is extant, is out there, does the department know that? And has a clear statement gone to them that says we want to be called in because? We haven't done that yet, I don't think.
We haven't done that yet.
So should we do that anyway? And then share it with...
Well, I think that's what we need to decide tonight, isn't it? Yes, go on.
We did, yes, the Town Council has made a request for calling, along with others, I believe. But the question now is whether you would like to make additional representations, because the initial calling request was really quite brief. So I don't know if you want to bring more evidence to bear, really, and make that more comprehensive. And as you said, I've asked the question several times of the casework officer about the timescale, and all she will tell me is that there is no formal consultation period. But as this matter is currently under consideration, any representation should be sent to us as soon as possible. That's the result of about 3 times of asking. She's not, I can't get a deadline or a date or anything out of her. So.
What do we have to actually do to start the ball rolling? Does anybody know?
Just write in.
As simple as that.
There is no set form for doing so, but you should set out clear planning reasons for requesting the call-in. And applications are considered against the call-in policy set out in the written ministerial statement made in 2012 by Nick Bowles, which I've also circulated, I hope, which gives examples of the types of issue which may lead to an application being called in. However, in general, this will only happen if planning issues of more than local importance are involved. And then she makes a point about we are unable to take into account matters relating to alleged errors in law, procedural failings or maladministration. These are for the court and or the local government social care ombudsman.
Well, you mentioned traffic in another one recently. Would we be able to write a letter for asking for calling on the basis of the huge traffic problems that this development is going to cause?
Yeah, if you look at the list, so does it conflict with national policy on important matters? We can say this development the proposal is preempting consideration of the local plan at the examination in public, where the strategic, where the soundness of the strategic proposal would be considered. So there are issues, for example, in relation to the amount of greenfield land being used. So you could raise that, that'd be fine. Does it have a significant impact on meeting housing needs? Yes, because we've got an issue with not meeting affordable housing targets, despite that policy being well established when the application was made. Does it have a significant effect on immediate locality? Yes, because of the impact on the strategic highway network and the particular pinch points of much runoff. And then you can add in commentary around the rest of the Tasley, the Bridge North, Cressage, those developments which would have been considered in strategic terms at the EIP. Substantial cross-boundary, well, yes, you can reference the fact that it's adjoining Telford and Shrewsbury and Shropshire, but I don't think they mean that here, that's national controversy. Design issues, yes, because you've got issues of traffic and noise and quality of the AONB and the World Heritage Site. National security, I haven't read the Pandora Papers, but who knows? So there you go, you've got those grounds you need.
It sounds like a lot to me.
You've got procedural grounds as well.
Not allowed to do procedural grounds.
So
Which is why I would, if you want to do procedural grounds, I'd go down the ombudsman.
So we could go the ombudsman company as a separate thing, piggybacking on the back of this with the ones that we know.
So the fact that Mr. Healy has referred to the fact that there is material consideration here that was lacking at the time the decision was taken.
Yes.
That can't be.
must be relevant.
You can reference it. You can say a critical piece of information about the traffic was not available to the committee. But the issue is it a planning issue? Well, the planning issue is the fact that the critical information tells you that it wasn't a workable scheme because of the gas requirement. That's so the fact it was a day late, but that's a procedure issue.
I would add that I'm aware that one of the councillors that sat on the Southern Planning and voted against it is taking some action with regard to some of the procedures that were put on that day. Certainly the two that we've outlined. Yeah. So we won't be on our own going to the ombudsman for that if that's what we decide we're going to do.
If we choose to write in to and ask for a call in on this particular occasion, time appears to be of the essence from what Clark was just saying. We haven't got that long. I don't know quite how long we are talking about. It didn't seem that long, that much time to draw it all together.
We can do it now.
Well, we can, but if we chose to do it in the next couple of weeks, say, and send in an appropriate letter, would that then turn us into the authority that was objecting to this very strongly? And we are then going to have to front some form of judicial.
I don't think that can be predicted, really. I think my own version of what that thread is it keeps on referring to as soon as possible. So in my view, we as a council should make a decision and some wording, a framework for wording that Trudy can perhaps go away and put something together. Or Mike, would you like to
significant help from my friends, I
think. Or Mike, would you fancy, or Mike and others, perhaps Mr. Hannafin might like to throw his hat into the ring for some material to go in there, of course. If that's okay with you, Mr. Hannafin? Yeah. Thank you. Mike, would you be willing to do that for us?
I have to sit an hour with Paul and Trudy next week, early next week, perhaps, and do this. You want him tomorrow?
My point was that if the calling is accepted by our letter,
Yeah.
Does that then put us in the forefront of the affair, so that we then have to employ lawyers to have a say? I don't know.
No, because it's a Secretary of State. It follows the process throughout to that, isn't it? It's he decides. Right?
If he decides
or not, and then it's the
takes on
parts
responsibility.
to get through it. So.
The Secretary of State calls it in, as Robert says, takes responsibility. He or she appoints an inspector.
Right.
So I don't know who pays for it at that point. I suspect it's the minister. We pay for it. But then it'll be along normal inquiry lines. So we invite people to make a case.
So we would then take a step back.
We would still want to submit a case, and so all the information that Paul's done and others have got around,
Yes.
Stuff you've turned up and talked about at the meeting, you put in a submission, and then you say that's our case, and the inspector then runs the inquiry and may invite you to come talk or whatever. It's up to us whether we then go and generate more evidence or information.
We're not letting ourselves into something that we can't handle.
I'm not a very big bill either, I want to say.
You've done all that
Yes.
work,
That's very reassuring.
We've done most of the work.
So can I have a proposal then for what people would like to do with considering take any further action?
I propose that we put together a letter, the clerk, Councillor Grace and Mr. Hannafin, put together an appropriate letter which we send to the Secretary of State asking for a call in on this application.
Okay, so that's a proposal on the table, folks.
I'll second it.
Councillor Tyler will second that. All those in favour of that? Okay, thank you very much.
Can we add to that, Chair? Two other things. One is that we write to Shropshire Council and express our concern about procedural issues. I don't know whether we want to agree now that we go to Ombudsman, but we could ask Shropshire Council for an explanation as to why that piece of information was 2 days late and see what they say.
I think, as per the agenda, that isn't straying actually. What further action do we want to take if dotty 2 after dotty 1 is the fact that we also compile some points to make to the Ombudsman, to the Council, that would also be furthered on to the Ombudsman at a later date or at the same time, then that can be a proposal as part of...
You've got a year to go to the Ombudsman, but you don't want to make that one.
I'm not objecting to this at all by any means, but from what Trudy was reading out a moment ago, is this a minor procedural mishap or misdemeanour? Is it a serious procedural?
It's material.
Because small procedural matters were to be ignored, weren't they? In what you just said.
No, I think what they're saying with regard to the calling request, they will not look at that. They don't want to know about procedural issues at all.
Right.
That's not relevant.
So sorry, this will be nothing to do
So
with
this
calling
would be a separate course of action.
And
Yeah.
they have to take, when they're making their decision, they have to take into account all material considerations. And if they don't have those on the table in front of them, then there is an issue. A material consideration has to be made.
Okay.
So, can I have a proposal then for what other actions we're going to take? We've agreed on calling it in and that...
Excuse me, Chair, could I just say that we have the Town Council has already requested a call-in. You're not requesting it, you're providing additional documentation, yes, additional representations to support your call-in request.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's clear.
So can a further action be then that we compile a letter to Shropshire Council about the procedural issues that we've got issue with, and that also then goes to the Ombudsman? Does anybody want to make a proposal?
I would write to Shropshire Council first,
Sure.
because you have to demonstrate to the Ombudsman that you've actually gone down that route.
Okay.
And then eventually you get to the Ombudsman.
Right. Okay.
Because then they may turn around and say, oh yes, we screwed up, very sorry. Now, what does that mean for the decision is another question, but
Okay.
At least ask the question.
So the proposal then is that we write a letter with disagreements with some of the procedural matters to Shropshire Council.
Right. Expressing concern, asking for an explanation.
Yes. Okay.
Does it strengthen calling if you have a sponsor in terms of a member of Parliament?
We have already written to the MP, haven't we?
Yeah, that was the initial course of action, was to write to Philip Dunn. and he, I think, batted it away more or less. I can't remember exactly what the response was, but basically to say it, wasn't up to him or it wasn't the right time. Did also copy to Daniel Kozinski, who didn't even acknowledge.
No.
Sorry, Councillor Todd.
But just saying, truly, I think he batted away because the decision had been deferred. No decision had been made as such, other than sending back.
Yeah, it was still in
If it's,
course of
now that
procedure,
it's been approved,
Yeah.
right, you could write again to fill it in, he would have to do something.
Well,
Yeah, is
Councillor,
that
something you want to.
proposal for us to do that then?
But Chair, I think Martin's point is even wider, because there's obviously others around who wish to do something similar or are doing something similar. So I think whether we can agree that we find out who else is in the mix here.
Yeah, I don't know quite how do we do that other than word of mouth. I'm not sure. Is there a way we can go, or some place we can go and link into to find out?
Well, the chairman of each council will be noted somewhere, of the adjacent councils. So we could then get on the telephone to them or something.
Can we send them a copy, send the clerk to all of those councils, a copy of our letter asking for the calling? Would that be appropriate?
Do you mean the original one, or what is going to be
What we're proposing now?
Yeah, it's just all time, isn't it?
We keep them advised what we're doing, and they may say, great, let's get involved as well.
You can do it on the telephone.
But that'll take even longer than anyway.
I mean, certainly I can send whatever you like, but I'm just a little bit concerned about the timescale of obviously the production of the document.
Surely
and
if they start,
distribution and so on.
but if they start sending their own, we wish to support much one not councils calling requests, then you can get dozens of different applications, and that numbers tend to get the message across quite quickly. Just having lots of names of other parish councils at the bottom of the letter might not have the same effect.
I wonder what the best method is to announce to the world that we're going to make a further call in and then gain that support.
Look, the purpose of what can I just confirm what I'm trying to the purpose of what I was saying was that not that we make an issue to the Secretary of State where we've got these people who are interested as well. The purpose was that those councils and parishes are made aware of what we're doing and then they get moving. Not that the whole point was going to be with the department.
Councillor Graham.
But the swift way of doing this is, let's agree the letter. You've given us delegation approval to write the letter. Dan or yourself can sign it, whatever. That can go off to the department. I would suggest then we send a copy of that to SALC and say, please distribute that around all the parishes in Shropshire with an invitation to write to the department directly and copying it to us if you wish to support what we do.
Like it, yeah. Very good, yeah.
Probably a lot better.
We got there eventually. I knew there must be a method or what we could do.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah,
Get SALC to just, I was going to say, get SALC to put out an inquiry for on our behalf to say, is anyone doing anything? And, but it's effectively the same
thing,
yeah.
But you're giving them the script.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, I like that. Very good.
That's much better than that.
Oh, yeah. We got there. Okay.
I propose that, Chair. I'm not going to repeat it last one.
Secondly,
One agrees.
secondly,
What was that again?
Okay, basically to contact other Shropshire parishes to advise them of what Wenlock is doing and seek their support in that action for us.
Ask them to write. We're going to ask them to write to the department.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That takes the pain out of it.
And give them the address. Everything.
Right, folks, time's of the essence then. I think have we.
So could I just come back to the Philip Dunn? The Philip Dunn point. Do I need to? Did you want to do anything with regard to Philip Dunn?
Oh yes, definitely.
After we Roger and ask him for his support.
And Kaczynski.
Yeah.
Well, don't much hope for him.
What about Lucy Allen from Telford? Because they've already
Partly
got
Telford
permission on
region,
their side. I think she should be made aware of it.
Okay, so what exactly am I doing with regard to the politicians? Just writing to,
Asking for their support.
asking them to support or make the request or
Yeah.
whatever.
Give them a copy of the letter and say we'd like to support them.
But Philip Dunn is our MP
Yeah.
and he should be acting for us.
Yes.
I think we'd be conscious though that didn't Philip, even though it is in his jurisdiction, didn't he make he made a comment that it essentially wasn't near it, hence the Shrewsbury.
Let him say it again. Just say it again, let him say it.
Basically, Billwatts falls into Daniel Kaczynski's parish, and Wenlock falls into Phillips, and the far end of Ironbridge falls into Lucy Evans.
Yeah.
You know, you've got 3 MPs there, all with an interest.
I think out of courtesy we should let them know, really.
So 2 or 3.
Thank you very much.
Invite them to support.
Indeed.
So
Invite them to support. Don't let them off the hook.
Okay, so unless there's anything else anybody wants to add to 12B, I propose we move on to the agenda. Time is of the essence. Okay, right. So item 13 then, Shropshire Council Local Plan Review to consider a report and recommendations from the meeting held with Shropshire Council's Planning Policy and Strategy Manager on the 15th of September this year. So to consider a report and make recommendations. Anybody want to kick us off with anything? Councillor Gross?
I drafted the report, Chair, and I thought it would be useful for us to have a formal record of our conversation with Eddie West. I won't go through it because it's there. I circulated a draft previously to PEC members, so you commented, and thank you to the clerk, particularly for picking a few things up and correcting my English as well, which is always very helpful. Useful discussion. I thought it was he was quite open and honest. It revealed what we knew, really, which was essentially they were pitching at a single site because they've got to develop flooding issues. Not much consideration about the town. Their view of public consultation is very different from our view of public consultation, I think. And the note of the meeting are appended. I mean, if there's any errors of fact in there, please say so. I don't think so. But I've just put one recommendation in, which is that we could write to Shropshire Council, ask Eddie West, given that they placed so much emphasis on the previous town council's acquiescence to their proposals, when the new town council came in May, why didn't they listen to us in June? So, why couldn't they change their mind? Was the question.
So your proposal is what then? Sorry.
To write to them on and ask the question that's in
the recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah. I just want to comment. I think two things. One, to thank Mike for chairing that, and for our native space there, it was really, really impressive. I think the second thing, in relation to what we've been talking about, there was, and you're right to call that out in there around the development of the infrastructure base, that Eddie West mentioned he's aware of the traffic issues in the gas corner arising from builders' proposals. However, there's no resolution or there wasn't discussed that there would be as part of that, which obviously was then layered on top of the additional potential build as part of that Gators Gate 2 piece, which I found interesting that there was acknowledgement that the Shropshire Council knew of that issue, and obviously again layer on top of the builders piece as well, which is interesting to know that people know this. It's
a good observation. There's an awful lot of acknowledgement and not much in the way of a solution to these issues.
Yeah. So with regard to your recommendation on that report, then anybody want to propose? Please. Yeah. Those by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Clement. Yeah. Yeah. So all hands up then. Go with the recommendation. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. That's passed then. 13B, to note progress with preparation for the examination.
Yeah, Chair, it was just it was a paragraph towards the end of the paper which just says that we're gathering up our list. The PEC considered this on Tuesday, and we have a long list of 20 or 30 groups that Trudy is writing to, and we picked the 3rd of November to have
3rd of
that.
November. Okay.
So please all stick that in the diary and come on. We'll find out where it is, and we'll shape an agenda near the time.
Yeah, and that'll come round fast. Okay. So, anything else to add to that? No? Anybody else to add? No, great, thank you very much. Moving on then to item 14, in terms of reference for the Shropshire Local Plan Review Working Group. Consider the draft terms of reference for such group. We've all had a chance to see the terms of reference. Anybody got any comments or anything that they'd like to change, for example, or whatever? Councillor Graham.
Maybe probably
Oh, sorry.
one side amendment, I think, just maybe a fifth responsibility that we're responsible for submission to the clerk on decisions that need to be made. Because I know we mentioned that significant strategic decisions must be approved by the town council in the conditions, but do we need something, I know, specific around that? Because I remember that this is one where it's got oversight from the PEC, but the decision making interface was with full council.
Yes, yeah. Anybody got any sort of wording proposal they'd like to add in?
Sorry, I didn't quite understand that. And apologies for numbers being the wrong way around. I'd obviously rearranged them and not rearranged the numbers.
So we've got a responsibility to report progress, but I think there's a responsibility to submit decisions to the clerk in good time or something, to this council, to this forum, sorry.
I've got to prepare a case for presentation to the examination in public, which will be brought to the town council for consideration. Or are you thinking of something in addition to that?
I'm also going to reflect on the strategic decisions based on mentioned the condition.
I think, I think the sequence will be is the group, we'll obviously have the meeting on the 3rd of November, we'll generate some way with the group to generate some way of moving that forward. It will come back to the PEC, and because the PEC always precedes the town council meeting, so the PEC can first look at it, recommend that to the town council when it thinks there's a bigger decision to be made.
Right.
That will be the process.
Yeah.
Does that help?
I think, yeah, that makes sense. So the PEC takes on that accountability for that.
Yeah, that's the first step.
That makes total sense.
Okay, great.
Just one thing from me, Chair. Can we just acknowledge that there may be a little bit of funding required for room hire, tea, coffee, milk, but apparently not biscuits.
Step too far.
I did try. I think you've already clarked with Adam and everything.
Yeah. So to incorporate a 5, which will be to through the clerk to make arrangements for room hire and such refreshments and printing as may be necessary. I'll add in something to that effect.
Okay.
You're all agreeable.
Anybody else to add to? Everybody happy with that?
We'll just thank the card with that. Thank the card for putting this together.
Yeah, I agree. We're on record as saying thanks, Julie, for your work on that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, another task.
Just one.
I know. Okay, then I'll propose we move on then to the Guildhall.
So you're all right with that, with the amendment about the admin and refreshments?
Yeah, nobody else wants to comment. So the Guildhall, which I'm afraid will be over to you, Julie, I think. Note that the work for the Guildhall cupola is scheduled to begin on the 6th of October. You probably noticed the scaffolding is already up. And it's expected to take 4 to 6 weeks. So we can all note that and watch it with an interested eye. And to note that the Guildhall will be closing to the public for the winter at the end of October, for those who didn't know. So this month is your last chance to come and see the exhibition that's currently on. Done by your paintings and
Christmas presents.
yes. Is there anything else you need to
Is
add
there already?
at this stage?
There's the vicar's book.
Great. Okay, so I think we've all noted that. Is everybody okay with that? Anything further to add now? Okay, right. Item 16, Made in Shropshire Markets. To consider proposal to hold Made in Shropshire Markets in the town. Councillor White. So this is my bit then. Okay then, so a very, very potted history, very quickly, is we went to Shrewsbury, we thought it was good. We've talked many times about markets and the resurrection of markets in our wonderful market town that is Much Wenlock. And we went to Shrewsbury one day and said, yeah, why can't we do this? Went round, contacted the coordinator who sets it all up, who's a lovely guy called Lindsay. We arranged a meeting. Myself, Robert and Dan met him in the town here one evening. We walked around the town so as you could get an idea of the layout. As it turns out, Made in Shropshire have been looking for a new location, having recently decided to pull out of Ludlow because Ludlow already has an established market, and it was kind of, they weren't really benefiting from taking their wares to an already existing market. They didn't feel it was working out for them. So we're looking for a new location, just happened that we timed it right to contact them. He came down and said, yeah, it's more than feasible. I'll explain in a second what they would do and what our responsibilities would be if we could support it. And he said, yeah, this is more than doable. The agreement we came up with in the end with them was that we would try 3 in a 12-month period in the town, in the high street, which would mean closing the road off for the Saturday that it would be held on. And go, I think it was the 3rd Saturday of the month. I think it was something like April, July and September or something like that were the proposed months. The details I've got somewhere. Our responsibility would be to apply for the road closure, appoint somebody who could be the liaison for them. Made in Shropshire is a company, they have their own website, they have over 50 members who are vetted, so make sure they have their own indemnity insurance, etc., etc. And if they come up with shoddy goods or don't behave when they come to a market, they get kicked off the association. So they're quite strict, and it's regulated by a committee. They charge their stall holders who want to come a set fee, and a company is employed to come and put up the market stalls. They are all uniform market stalls. They're double stalls, white. They're all exactly the same size. The tables are provided, everything. Our only involvement would be to just kind of supervise that being done and make sure that nothing untoward was happening apart from closing off the road. So there's no financial burden on us. Obviously, we've got to sell this to the town if we agree to do it. I'm sure there'll be some people who might be a bit sceptical of it. It would mean that the stalls would be all down the high street from where the width restriction starts by the old bank and going down towards the George and Dragon and be on the George and Dragon side of the road. We've measured it out and it's more than feasible for plenty of easy passage and the footpath. They won't go up on the footpath outside the George and Dragon, so people can still walk down the back of the stalls if they want to. And there's plenty of room for 2 or 3 people wide in the road, what's left of the existing road that they will cut out into, because basically they were taking up the parking spaces with just a little bit of a feature of the road. So personally, I think it would be a good thing for the town. There are all products that are quality products, different to what the town already provides, so it shouldn't be treading on anybody's toes of the existing retailers. I only see it as a positive thing to attract people to come to the town, with possibilities in the future of maybe doing it once a month, once every 2 months, if we can prove that it works. So can I just finish one point? We agreed that if we did agree to go ahead with this, that for the trial period we wouldn't charge them for using our town. We just wanted them to come and bring business and bring people and visitors to the town. Sorry.
How many stalls would there be in that stretch?
He said 20 initially, and they would vet those stalls that came, 20 plus stalls.
Terribly wide stalls, isn't they?
They're all set things. I think they're 8 foot by 8 foot square.
The measurements have been done, that's correct.
Yeah, he would measure it out there.
Yeah. And what about the shops at the back of these stalls, which would be somewhat cut off?
I don't think it'll be cut off because it's not going to be like a solid barrier. There are going to be gaps that people can still walk through, and the footpath will be left intact in front of those shops.
So there's no stall onto the footpath?
No, they won't. They'll butt up to the edge of the footpath, but they won't be dropped up onto the footpath.
And that's free. That's a freeway.
Yes, so it's still, so the footpath is not affected in any way outside those shops.
So they're effectively taking the width of the motor car.
Yes, yeah. Just slightly more than that, in fairness. But
those shop owners being contacted in our
No, not yet, because what I wanted to do was, we've discussed it, they've made a proposal that this is what they would be willing to do. We now, as a town council, need to agree that we will support it and we'll give it a trial. If we then do that, then we then got to go and promote it, and not promote it as in for profit for money, promote it within the retailers and the people of the town to see what the feeling is.
Can I ask, is any of this being done under any right to hold a fair in the town charters? Because if
It's only Mondays,
Is it? I'll back to you about it.
It's only Monday.
I mean, if it's being done under a right under a charter, then there's no right for the council to charge any fees, and the police can't object either.
Okay, good point. Yeah.
They have promised they wouldn't charge, haven't they?
Yes.
Oh, well, it's fine.
And it is a serious issue because in the past it scared off another successful market organiser. One or two issues there. Just wanted to talk about extra public loos you might need, which they do have for the Christmas fair, but also parking. And I think it's very important that we try and involve Wenlock Estates and particularly the tenants. So, you know, it would be people like Arthur Hill and who's here? Arthur! Didn't see that.
It's looking.
But the use of the Wenlock Estates land for parking, I think would be essential really, and in summer months, and charge for it, so that there could be a charitable stream. It would be compensation for the grazing losses, which are calculable. But I think that to have somewhere safe and well managed. I know that some charities will actually provide volunteers. I believe that Air Ambulance will run certain aspects of an event like parking or stewarding, as long as they can rattle a bucket at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think obviously it may well be that we could run 3 events and then they say that this doesn't work for us, we're just not making enough money. I have to say, when I started talking to some of the stallholders in Shrewsbury and said, what do you think about coming to much Wenlock? Oh yes, I mean, they were chomping at the bit. So I don't think we'll be struggling, but of course it's still a financial consideration.
In its most simplest sense, I think it's a great idea. Without thinking about the problems at this point, it's a really good idea for the town.
Oh, sure, in principle.
And I think you definitely go ahead, and the 3 times in the people wanted to be spoke to in the shops and explained, obviously. But it will bring people, and then they'll find out where Wenlock is, see things, you know, what's going on, and it's going to be positive.
I'm not making difficulties, but you do need to get it right, because if you get it wrong, they'll never come back again.
You're right.
I think that's
And I think parking is a big issue. Whether you do a park and ride or something, but parking is a big issue. It needs to be addressed.
Use the school parking.
School and
walk through the field,
yeah.
bit of history through the field.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are all things that we'll have to consider, and they're very valid points. The whole idea of putting on the agenda is just to agree in principle to it and start developing it.
Have we had any experience of doing this sort of thing before?
I believe in years gone past there were markets, weren't there? In Robin Bennett's day, you didn't have a bash at markets and stuff. I mean,
part in the farmers' market downstairs.
Oh, right. I mean, from my point of view, what I find attractive is that there actually isn't a great deal for us as a council to do. And if it proves successful, 1, it brings business to town and people to town that might not normally come. And 2, it could lead to us actually earning some money out of it.
But that is the trick with it, though, is that we shouldn't be running it. We're a town council.
Running it as in allowing the event to happen there. I don't really want it.
You get the specialists who make some money. That's how the world works. People make something out.
These stalls, are they selling produce?
It's
produce,
stuff
or
like
was it clothing or
unique jewellery? There was a lady selling Jamaican food, West Indian food. there was all sorts of, there was a crockery store with unique crockery specifically designed.
Made in Shropshire.
Well, it's all made in Shropshire, that's part of the qualification, unless they actually, their businesses in Shropshire, they're not allowed to be part of it.
And do they need electricity, these stores?
That's all sorted out by them. If they do, they bring their own.
Bring their own generator?
Yeah.
They don't push a wire
In
into
Shrewsbury,
the
it's provided,
shops?
but we couldn't do that here, and they're quite happy to just
Well,
be standalone.
in the Christmas and the summer fairs, they ask the owner, homeowner, shop owner, if they can.
Well, maybe that's something that in the future they would want to do. Yeah.
Are you looking to make a decision on this evening?
Yes, I think so, because he's written to us, he said, this is what we're willing to do.
Could you put a proposal together?
Yes, and I would like the council to agree, obviously, that we do go ahead with it, and we say, yeah, we'll sign up to those first three, and we'll start working together with you through the communications and markets committee.
How long are we talking about for the first one?
Sorry?
How long are we talking about for the first one?
April.
It is important that the council does support this, because when we've tried to do it before, it was because council wouldn't support it. That it failed.
Can I just go to the clerk first and then come to you?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, could you make any agreement conditional, obviously, on all the arrangements being in place? I'm a bit concerned about emergency access, about the size of the stalls and how much road will be left for emergency access. Because I think Diane flagged up to me that was an issue before, that the stalls should stay within the parking bays, but the ones you're describing sound slightly wider. Yeah, so they.
But they're the standard size that the stallholders use at Christmas fair.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they have stalls all the way up High Street. I mean, I don't know. It's just a consideration. You will need to allow emergency access.
And they will deal with all of the emergency planning and
yeah,
risk assessments. They've got their own insurance, so we wouldn't have to get involved in any of that
I
side.
think that was one of the crucial things about this. It was a very professional operation, really, and they operate very successfully in Shrewsbury, and the quality of the stores is very high.
It is extremely high.
They don't accept anyone who comes, applies, then they vet them all first. So it's an impressive operation. So
I was impressed.
I think they would cover all the issues without us having to dot all the I's and cross the T's, really. Obviously, we'd have to make sure they did, but I think they're used to doing that sort of thing, so I think they would take it forward.
Councillor Granger, sorry, you wanted to make a point tonight.
Yeah, I think firstly, I think it's brilliant. I love it. I genuinely love it. I think my initial reaction was the local businesses. There's obviously going to be people that are keen or would want in on it. There's going to be plenty. We're obviously making a positive move, but we'll be rolling out in this first wave the local people, local stores. That doesn't put me off saying I think it's brilliant and we'll go for it. It's more, if asked this question, do we have a response for that generally?
If local people suddenly think, this is a great idea, I could do a stall, they can apply to join their association,
Right.
and they can have a stall at the next, be allocated
Okay.
a stall at the next
Yeah.
market. It's as simple as
So that's it, you answered the question there. I think the other thing is that, on Mark's points, if we agree to this, which I'm going to definitely vote for, is that a condition that by that April we have a solution for the toilets and parking? Are we going to include that as a...
We will have had meetings before that.
Yeah, I kicked this off. I started it off, and so I accept responsibility for it. But I mean, really, I'm not on the comms group, but I think it's something that needs to be owned by the comms group and driven.
Yeah.
With obviously an assist. But I said, if it takes me being the link person that gets up at 6:30 when they come to put the stalls out, I'm fine with that. I'll do that. Because I don't want anybody else to have to try and pick up and run with that. Mr. Hill would like to make a point. Can we have a vote on agreeing to suspend standing orders so that we can talk to the council? Everybody happy with that? Okay.
Brief.
If you keep it brief, please, Mr. Hill. Thank you.
Chairman, the parking issue is a serious issue that you need to get right. We're not against it at all.
Sorry, who's we?
well, with tenants of Wenlock Estate, and you'd want to use down in the parkland there. A, it has effect on our sheep, our husbandry there. I'm not the tenant, by the way, my son is. But the other issues are, we need to get Wenlock Estate's approval for it. The other points are wet weather, because you're going on a grass field. We wouldn't want that cut up. It's in the middle of the grazing season, etc. In early April, or you said a date in April, you want to do the first one. The weather can be a little bit iffy then, you know, we're just only out of winter, so we've just got to be careful. The second issue is that the one in July is normally, that you're suggesting 20th of July, is a week after the Wenlock Olympian weekend, where they have prior use historically for parking on there, and they park up to 100 cars in a normal time. So we've got to, you know, that means that sheep have to be off there for a period of 3 weeks. And the one in September, was the last one in?
I'm just trying to find the email with the exact dates, to be honest. So, yeah, so keep talking, just discuss that.
Are these dates set in stone?
No, they're not. No. They can be on.
So they can be on.
There was just, it was merely a proposal they put on the table saying,
No, that's fine.
let's go for the third, because they have to obviously fit it in with, they are, it's the first Saturday is Shrewsbury, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it could be, yeah.
Chair, can we cut to the chase? Can we say we agree in principle, but subject to all these issues getting resolved as soon as possible?
So, absolutely.
Yeah, well, you need to resolve this one first, I suspect, because it could have an effect on what we do.
It's a major issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Parking is a major issue.
April, June and August. Right, okay, I've gone wrong. April, June and August, so the third Saturday. Anyway, yeah, so can we have a vote then on our proposal to accept that, if that's what we want to do?
Can you put the proposal forward
Shall I make a proposal?
Can you hear me?
Okay, I propose that we accept the outline plan in principle to, as an experiment, to try 3 markets on Saturdays with using this company next year in 2022.
Should we have this subject to these other issues being resolved?
I think if we accept it in principle,
Outline.
yeah, an outline, and then we'll discuss the mechanics of what needs to be done to actually make it run smoothly and run efficiently. As a committee. That doesn't need to be in the proposal.
Well, you could say something, you know, yes, that you approve the principle of trial 3 markets subject to confirmation of all necessary arrangements.
Oh, I like that.
Something like that.
Anybody want to second that then? Okay. All those in favour then? Thank you very much. Right. Stage 1 complete. Right. That's down to the agenda then. We need to reinstate standing orders. We agree to reinstate standing orders?
You did that before.
Did I do that before?
You did that before.
I must have done it. Missed it.
Proposal.
Bringing it. Okay. Item 17 on the agenda then, folks. Remembrance services. To approve the holding of a short service of remembrance at the Corn Exchange on Thursday, the 11th of November. Can I have a proposer and a seconder? Proposed by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Tyler. All those in favour? Great, thank you very much. Item B, to approve the holding of a remembrance service for primary school children in the cemetery on Friday, the 12th of November. Proposer and a seconder. Proposed, Councillor Fenwick, seconded by Councillor Tyler. All those in favour for the primary school? Great, thanks. Councillor Granger? Councillor Granger?
It's a cemetery. Yeah.
You better not approve the primary school.
It's the cemetery by the war graves. They've done it for several years running. It's just a small group come with the head and.
From across the road, it's certainly across the road.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of the crossing of the road and the safety issues there. But
That's up to the school.
Yeah.
Yeah. Item 18, arrangement for Christmas lights switch on. To agree the arrangements for switch on for Christmas lights display. This isn't going to be very easy. I propose that we actually will defer this one because we haven't got anybody here with any, unless Marcus, do you feel confident enough to say what we can do? I mean, there are moves afoot, aren't they? And there are plans, and people are trying to arrange this and trying to arrange that, and there's a date being provisionally talked about. I know that.
And they're going to be switched on.
Yeah.
So it's really a question of giving the town's traders and town's groups the opportunity to make something of it for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think, to have a few groups in the square singing carols or whatever they want to, might not be carols, it might not be appropriate that early, but it will still be November. But anyway, singing songs, but also for the traders to get out on the street if the weather's good enough. And
Have we got a date for when these are going to be
25th of November.
25th of November.
I think the proposal initially so far is sort of 5:30, gather, 6 o'clock, switch on the lights.
Yeah.
Using walkie-talkies to try and make it easier. Bit of entertainment going on there. And try and make a big.
But we can close the street. Probably would be safest. It's a sensible thing to do, which doesn't cost anything. And we just need some volunteers just to stand in the way in high vis. We probably need to make sure that we've got some, first response there and that sort of thing. So. But it would be low key to start off with. But it's got to be something that the town's traders will take up.
I went on the Zoom meeting and it was kind of agreed that this would be a start for hopefully bigger things in other years, in future years, when maybe restrictions aren't quite so manic as they are at the moment. And it just wanted to make it a family event and make it an event and try and get the traders involved, staying open a bit later and just generally getting an atmosphere. I think they're talking about a bit of food being laid on if people want it, mulled wine if people want it, and then some entertainment for the kids and a bit of choir singing, things like that. Just to try and, rather than just somebody just going, oh, let's turn the lights on, which has happened in previous years, and it's been a real damn squib because I turned up one year with my grandson and went, is that it? Oh, right, okay then. Whatever we can do to make it a bit more of a proper event. I mean, because other towns do it and they make a real big song and dance around it. Like Shifnal's been established for years. There's thousands of people turn out at Shifnal. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting we do that this time, but I think, the proposal is that we
need to
start,
encourage. We need to encourage.
And make a start. I mean, this is just to agree the arrangements, but I mean, that's actually just to note it and class the town.
No, could I just ask about the road closure? Because we talked about this with Dan. It's difficult to do a road closure in the middle of the day because generally you have to notify people that they don't want to be parking there. And when we have a road closure, what happens is that Andy actually has to go out and put bollards and things. We have to manage that ourselves. So it just might be a bit tricky, and if it's not needed, then it's more straightforward not to have it, really. For the inconvenience it might cause for those, but I don't know if
the High Street or Barrow Street.
Yeah, and I'm a little confused about the description as a low-key event and then the need for road closure when we've got the space in the square anyway.
I think it's just we're going to get some idiot rat running through, as we know they do all the time at +5 and 6 o'clock, and we don't want them there. Especially if you've got children spilling out off the town square. I think it's just the safest thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, we can obviously apply for it. It's more the practicalities of how that works. In practice, when you've already got cars parked there, or people coming home from work, or whatever.
I think that's something that needs to be managed.
It's 40 minutes of parking on the high street. If you shut it at 5 o'clock, they're all going to be off by it. Or they're getting a ticket.
But just the high street would need.
I think, again, if it's something we're trying to build on, it's all part of that learning process, isn't it? How we manage that. I think it's a key part of it.
I mean, it's on the agenda, one, to let us know that it's happening, and two, to just sort of agree in principle that we support it as a council. And,
Excuse me, it's only happening if you agree it.
Okay.
Because they're your lives.
What she said.
Well, that is that the town council has to agree it's going to happen because the town council is organising and it's your lives.
Yes.
So,
okay.
On the publicity, are we going to put something in the Herald, especially because we've only got 5 days to do it? Yeah.
I haven't written a piece for the Herald yet.
I
So
think we need a box rather than just in the town council.
I refer to my previous comment about low key.
It's only, you only need an announcement saying it's going
No,
to happen
no,
on
no,
the
no, no.
25th.
What I mean is, I don't mean the announcement. I mean in terms of how many people you're wishing to attract. Really,
By
that's
the
all.
time social media, a few posts, 1 or 2 posters in the week before.
Yeah. The traders pushing it.
I think something should be.
Actually, the Herald wouldn't be any good because of the date, would it?
Well, that's why I'm saying it's 5 days to go.
Yeah, no. It's not the submission date. It's the
It won't go out until
publication
December, will
date.
it?
It doesn't come out until the end of the month, and if the switching is on the 25th, it
No,
will
that's why it should be in the November Herald.
Start
Yes,
in
we're
November.
talking about the November.
Right.
The submission date for the November Herald is the 12th. The
Yeah.
Herald does not appear until the end of that month. So by the time the Herald is in circulation,
No.
the event will have happened.
No, the November Herald has not yet been.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yes, sorry. Yes, no. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know I'm always writing it in advance. Yes, you are right. You're right. Sorry about that.
I'm
Yes.
the former editor
Okay.
No, you're absolutely right.
So rather than just raise people's hopes, so just to say, it's hoped to make more of switching the lights on this year. Keep an eye open through course of through November to see what's going for more details.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to put up whatever you'd like,
That's
but
the
it's
sort of-
just managing the size.
That's the
how
sort
many
of
people you
that's the
want to
sort of
attract,
gist,
really.
you know.
Yeah,
It's,
that's what makes it.
I think we would get a huge response from social media.
Yeah.
And you can do that almost like
It's a low key event day.
Yeah.
It's-
Do you want a low key event? Do you
Huge
want a
doesn't
lot
come
of
into it.
people?
You can't sort of say, well, we've got 1,000 people in the town, we don't want anything. You've just got to take what
Can I
comes.
propose that we agree to support this? And let's
I
move
propose
on.
that we agree to support it.
Okay.
I mean, if it's too low key, people say, well, this isn't it.
Yeah.
We're not going to bother next
Show of
year.
hands. Otherwise, we're never going to get finished.
Yes,
Sorry,
yeah.
no. Okay, David. So,
Yes, fine.
okay, right, thanks. 19, then, arrangements for Christmas closure of office. Trudy, up to you. Sorry.
Yes, we'd like to suggest that we have a Christmas closure, and if councillors are agreeable, we'd like the 22nd to be the last day that we're open before Christmas, and we would like to then be closed for the Christmas festive season and return on the 4th, which is the Tuesday, the Monday being bank holiday.
Is that standard procedure from previous years?
We've had a Christmas closure before. It varies according to which day of the week Christmas falls on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's actually a good time of year for us to take holiday
Sounds
because
very
everyone
reasonable.
takes holiday, so it's generally very quiet.
Well,
so in that
no
respect.
question about it, you will have earned it.
Lots of bank holiday.
The three of them will have earned it.
Yes.
Take a lot less holidays.
Only if you agree not to take any work home.
Oh, well,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
yes, I mean 3 of those days will be bank holidays, and obviously we will take annual leave for the others. We're not asking for a free gift of holiday. It's just that there won't be anyone there. Really.
So what was the first one, December the?
And we'd like to, if you're agreeable, to break up on the 22nd. So the 22nd would be our last day in the office, and then we'd return on the 4th. So we'd be closed for, I think the 22nd is a Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm not sure. And then we'd return. Then we'd be closed the whole of the following week, which is that period between Christmas and New Year. It's a Wednesday, 22nd. Yeah, so we break up on the Wednesday, and then have the rest of that week, the following week, and we return on the Tuesday, which is the day after the bank holiday, which is the Monday.
Can I just ask, is there any procedure? No, procedure's the wrong word. Do you ever have a
I think it's
Christmas
agreed
lunch,
annually.
a Christmas lunch or something like that?
sorry.
To thank the staff for, is that ever gone on before? or-
I've not been here that long. It's not in my time. I think councillors have previously had Christmas meals together.
Well, I'm sure
on their
it-
own
I'm sure it
size.
is,
Councillors did go out for a Christmas evening meal. The clerk used to come to that or was invited. I suspect we paid for the clerk.
Yeah.
I don't know
That
about
was
other
really what I'm
members.
getting at, really.
I don't know about other members of staff, but it was kind of a dull tradition, to be honest.
Yes, short of sandwiches for Christmas dinner.
I'll make the sandwiches and bring this time.
They got to breaks and get some,
Can I have a
Where
proposal?
did you go, Mike?
Proposal for the proposal that Trudy's
I propose that Julie's time's off on the
on the dates that she
4th.
We agree.
Seconded. All those in favour? Thank you. Right.
Shows the clock turn the lights off there as well.
Consultation item 20, to note the following consultation and consider response from the Town Council. West Mercia Police and Crime Commissioner's draft Safer West Mercia plan, closing date the 1st of November, which kindly Councillor Top agreed to draft and send to us all.
I've circulated my draft today, so I concentrated on 4 areas which I thought were particularly well picked out in the report on victim support, road safety, frontline services and the community focus. But we don't have to submit until the 1st of November, so if anyone's got any more comments to add, to take them into account.
Anybody, any comments? I thought it was excellent. Thank you very much for volunteering to do that, Councillor Todd. And certainly puts us in a good position. Unless anybody wants to add to that, then I propose we move on to item B then, Shropshire Health and
Chair, have you agreed to Councillor Toft's draft being submitted?
No, I haven't. No, is that what we're doing? Okay.
No, you don't have
Well, you could, unless you want to prolong this until the next meeting.
No. Okay, so can I have a proposal to accept it and to use Councillor Toft's response? Councillor Fenwick, Councillor Granger seconded. All those in favour? Yeah, thank you very much. Right.
So do I submit this through you, Trudy?
Probably best, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Item B then, Shropshire Health and Wellbeing Strategy Refresh 22-27, closing date the 8th of November. I think this was just to note and consider if we wanted to respond as a council. Do we want to just note it, or do we want to agree on anything else? I think we'll note it. Is that okay? Is that the consensus that everybody just wants to just note it and we'll move on? It appears to be the consensus.
Individual responses can be made.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, lovely. Item 21 then, correspondence, to note the following items. The SELC friendly bus, rural bulletins, community reassurance update, press release from Health Watch.
Moving out more, Chair.
Yeah, I can't miss them, but if you've got the agenda in front of you. Okay then, yeah. Thank you very much. Anybody want to second that? We note those. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, everybody's in agreement there. Item number 22, agenda items for the next Town Council meeting. This is always on the agenda, folks, and don't feel that you have to think of something now. If you think of something in the meantime before the next meeting, as long as we've got plenty of notice and you can inform the clerk, it can always be added. So, but remember, we have to have the agenda out 7 days before. So as long as it's before that time, with plenty of time that the clerk can add it, that's great.
We have the meeting of community groups regarding the local plan review and examination on the 3rd of November. That's the day before Town Council meeting. So we have it on the agenda, but it will be a verbal report.
Yeah, okay, accepted. Yeah, thank you very much for the report. Yeah. Okay, day's the next meeting then, if we can all note the day of the next meeting to be the 4th of November, the day after that one. Here on
Can the Christmas lights turn on the Town Council meeting?
25th.
On the 4th?
No.
They won't be in place.
Okay, right then. Well, we'll conclude the meeting now. We'll move on to public section being closed down. So, Mr. Healy, we're going to go into a private session now, if that's okay. That's where we need to discuss. If you want to wait outside in the other room out there, that'll be fine. Okay, great.